Hey, First Assembly family. Wanted to share with you a quick thought about a person in our family, the Christian family. She lived 2,000 years ago, approximately 200 AD. She was one of our early Christian sisters. Her name was Perpetua. You can find information about her on the internet. I found it when I was looking up some information about the message that I'm going to be sharing this week. And this girl held her ground. She stood firm in the faith. We don't know much about her in terms of how she got saved or how she lived, but through diary writings and the writings of her family, we know about the end of her life. She became a Christian, even though most of her family were pagans, and she had a young child. The child was still nursing, so it was a young child. And she became a Christian, but the Roman emperor at that time was cracking down on Christianity, wanted to crush Christianity. And so all of the governors of the regions were allowed to arrest the local Christians. And so Perpetua and a bunch of other people were arrested in North Africa, in the city of Carthage. It was a large, vibrant Christian community there. Well, her father came to her and pleaded with her, please renounce this Christianity, come home for my sake. And it's reported through the writings of diaries and his history that she pointed towards a vase and said, this is a vase. It cannot be called by anything else, can it? And her father said, no. And she said, I can be called by nothing else. I am a Christian. And so she was taken to court, and her father begged her for one last time. He came in and saw her and brought her infant child and said, please, for the sake of your child, renounce this Christianity and pay the homage to the emperor and worship him. And she said, I'm in God's hands. I cannot do that. So she, along with many others, were found guilty of their Christian faith. And they were sentenced to death in the local arena, the local Colosseum. And the crowds were there on that day. They were marched out into the arena, given one final chance to bow down and worship the emperor. She said no. And all of a sudden, the wild animals were let loose. She was attacked by cows, wild bulls, and then by a leopard. The writings and the history of her says that in her last moments she stood up, straightened her tunic out, and went to help the others who were also attacked. The crowd became so anxious for blood that they called for their beheading. And all of the Christians that day were knelt down, were put down in a kneeling position and were beheaded. Why do I tell you that story? I tell you that story because Perpetua held her ground. The mighty oak of today is a small nut of yesterday that held its ground. I just am believing that the Holy Spirit is saying to us, hold your ground, stand firm in your faith. No matter what, God has you in his hands. Perpetua said that. In her last moments, she said, I know God has me in his hands. I'm not going back. So be encouraged. We are in the lineage. Our family, the Christian family, has an incredible rich history, a legacy of those who held their ground, stood firm in the faith, and didn't give in. God bless you. We'll see you soon.